Alright, my peoples, let's bring some good stuff, because sometimes these peoples speak nothing but evils. I don't know. In the meantime, welcome to a new episode of Superhero Deep Dive. I, as always, am your host, Jason. I have a great episode scheduled for you today. This is a really cool superhero. A lot of you guys may know them, but not actually know about them, so let's get in. Let me get my disclaimers out of the way. We'll kind of plug into it. Alright, so the information is pulled from different sources across the internet and may or may not be completely complete, but they do give a really good insight on the current superhero. As always, you can catch me every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the day on Outworld Fleet Radio. It's an online radio station. It's awesome. Their website is outworldfleetradio.online. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram under Super Deep Dive. You can catch me on TikTok under Superhero Deep Dive. I just started that. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can email me directly at b4itall, so b4itall at yahoo.com. And you can catch me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. Like, subscribe, share the channel, hit the notification bell. I don't know, all that stuff that everyone else tells you to do for their channel. It does actually help. But yeah, do all that. It'll be great. I post videos all the time. I actually post videos. I post memes daily, like superhero memes daily. I post AI generated artwork with superheroes, and I did like Thundercats and stuff like that, He-Man, all the good stuff. I did a lot of those and I posted up. So I actually post about 3 to 4 times a week. So check it out. There's always something good. And like I said, the superhero memes are daily. And I usually end up posting like a big thing of superhero memes every Saturday. So do that. All right. Now, with all that being said, let me get into it. I am going to be talking about the hero known as M from Marvel Comics and the X-Men universe. Her real name is Monet St. Croix. I hope I am saying that correctly. But anyways, I'm just going to say Monet. Monet was born in Sarajevo, Bosnia during a family ski trip and is the second child to a rich and eccentric Afro-Monegasque Cartier St. Croix and his Algerian wife, which is just his Algerian wife. Okay. I don't know what Afro-Monegasque is. If you know, please let me know, because it just sounds weird. And it's because of my own ignorance is why it sounds weird. Alright, anyways. Cartier was the son of the French aristocrat Louis St. Croix. Now Monet grew up pompous and spoiled as a result of being the favorite child of her father, with his prestigious position as the Monegasque ambassador to France. She was also raised as a Muslim, so there's a bit of diversity there. Shortly after her mother's mysterious death, her brother Marius, a vampiric mutant known as M-Plate, was banished from the St. Croix home. He eventually returned after learning the dark arts and requested that Monet join him in conquering another dimension. She rejected his offer, and after finally having enough of his sister's ridicule, Marius transformed her into a red-skinned, untouchable mute creature whom he nicknamed Penance. Monet's younger sister, Nicole and Claudette, heard the commotion and investigated, and when they could not find Monet, they assumed that Marius had killed her. The twins then banished him to another dimension while Monet followed, believing it was her only way to revert to normal. Now, I know some of you are hearing the name Penance, and you're like, wow, that sounds familiar. It's because when Speedball, when he was fighting in Civil War, or right before Civil War, he was following a villain named Nitro. And they attacked Nitro in like a residential area. Nitro, he has the power to like explode and reform himself. So he exploded and killed a bunch of people. Speedball survived, got blamed for it, and his guilt made him take on a new persona called Penance. So I actually did a deep dive on the speedball version of Penance. I encourage you to check it out because it's really cool power set. How everything kind of morphed within him. This is not the same Penance. So just letting you know. All right. Anyways, afraid their father would break down after the loss of his favorite child, the twin sisters decided to merge bodies and replicate Monet. This version of Monet would have been identical to the original if were not for Claudette's autism, which would sometimes take effect, leaving Monet in catatonic stupors. Subsequently, while the twins were impersonating their sister, they were among the new generation of mutants captured by the techno-organic alien race known as the Phalnics. That's insane. Like, we went through 4 kids just now in this little intro for her, like this brief backstory, where she had powers, the brother had like vampiric powers, and then the twins merged to become her. We need some kind of family history on them. Like, there needs to be a series. So that's going to be a spoiler alert. Alright. While impersonating Monet, the twins battled the Phalnics until she and the other teenage mutants were rescued by Banshee and Emma Frost. The group soon formed the Generation X team, with Sean and Emma acting as co-headmasters of the new school designed to train them in the use of their powers. Shortly after the school opens, Banshee, Sync, and Jubilee go to the airport to welcome the new students. And one of them was named Chamber, who is really cool. He's kind of like this telepath. I've actually got to do a deep dive on him. Give me 1 second. I love doing these shows where like information kind of feeds into itself. And we should do one on Sync as well. Where did my pen go? I will write it in my notebook. All right. So I'm going to do Sync and Chamber. I've got a huge list. So it's gonna be a while, but I'm gonna work on them. All right. Anyways, the twins remain at the school and are reunited with the Australian teleporter Gateway, who they are glad to see and address as mentor. However, Gateway's return serves to warn them of the return of their evil brother. The twins convince Gateway to teleport them, Husk, who we did a deep dive on, Skin, and Emma Frost to the airport where M-Plate has already managed to absorb the powers of Chamber and Banshee. Though the twins recognize M-Plate and address him as such, he says he cannot determine their name despite the aspect of his mutant power that grants him knowledge at a glance with mutants, including their name and more or less allowing them to read their memories. In addition, M-Plate knows for a fact they are not Monet, as the true Monet has been in his prisoner and main source of sustenance for years. Rather than face the full might of Generation X, M-Plate decides to retreat. The twins try to stop him from fleeing, but are forced to stop telepathically by Emma, who saw Husk seriously wounded in the battle and desired to keep Monet from meeting a similar fate. The twins are furious at her interruption and warn her never to enter their minds again. Shortly after returning to the school, Gateway reappears on the front lawn, this time with the true Monet, having found her during the aforementioned battle, as M-Plate returns to his hideout and to find her gone, who is still trapped in the Penance body. Gateway utters a single word, Penance, and this is assumed to be the unfortunate girl's name by others. The moment Penance wakes up, her overriding desire is to be free. She instinctively slashes through anything in her way with her razor-sharp claws to achieve this goal and escapes onto the school grounds. The twins immediately display both a detailed knowledge of Penance's plight, specifically her connection to M-Plate, far beyond even her teachers, as well as a curious reluctance to physically engage in battle. While the rest of the team scrambles to try and capture Penance by force, Chamber merely lets her come to him, sensing that their mutant powers have made them both monsters and kindred spirits. Penance calms down in his presence, bringing the crisis to a peaceful end. The team soon becomes aware of Monet's reoccurring temporary trances where she spaces out and is temporarily unresponsive for several minutes at the least, and this is due to Claudette's autism. Monet later motions to the reader, so to us, that this most often happens during moments of intense focus. Worse, as she is the only member of the team with actual super strength, she proves completely unmovable until she emerges from the trances. An early occurrence of this trance states forces Sync, Skin, and Jubilee to abandon her during a trip to New York City, where they end up battling and defeating Hemingway of Gene Nation. Monet eventually wakes up and reunites with the team, just in time to save Jubilee and Leech from being crushed by a falling slab of debris. Though Jubilee is grateful, she later points out that Monet would be a major liability if she ever spaced out in battle. Monet brushes aside her concern and continues to do so virtually any time her trances are mentioned in the near future. I gotta side with Jubilee on this one. That is dangerous. I don't care how powerful you are. If your team is depending on you and you just randomly space out, everyone's in danger. Alright. Now, during the Generation X annual 1995, the team is introduced to Cordelia Frost, Emma Frost's younger and even less trustworthy sister, and her constant companion, the mutant Mondo, who is able to absorb both organic and inorganic matter, taking on his properties as well as transport himself through these same materials. Mondo eventually joins the team while Cordelia leaves, and at the same time, Jubilee discovers and accidentally rips Monet's diary, which more closely resembles a children's coloring book. Penance later has something resembling a seizure while swimming with Jubilee, forcing Emma to give her the psychic equivalent of a sedative. Penance remains unconscious in the medical wing for the next 2 issues, with Jubilee as her most constant visitor. Almost immediately after Chamber saves the team from a near-fatal attack by Omega Red, and Penance is woken, and they are again attacked by M-Plate, who desires to have Penance returned to him. Because we have to remember, this is how M-Plate was getting substance from her. So this time, M-Plate has recruited a team of Hellions to do his dirty work, all of whom are under his thrall, including Gail Edgerton, Chamber's former lover, who was paralyzed when his powers first manifested. Gail helps M-Plate because she wants revenge on Chamber, but once Generation X is captured, he betrays her. Monet is the last to be captured, and M-Plate reveals his first of several St. Croix family secrets to Generation X, that Monet is actually his younger sister. However, he does not reveal to them that the twins have fused to become Monet, though it is clear from his choice of words that he is now aware of this as well. Monet manages to escape and contact the X-Men for help before the Hellions find her. The X-Men Bishop arrives to assist Monet, and he is disturbed upon learning of Monet's relation to M-Plate, and reveals that hordes of M-Plates will be a source of great trouble in the future. That's insane. Like, this is a crazy history so far. Alright, meanwhile, Jubilee manages to enrage M-Plate into absorbing her genetic marrow, knowing that because she cannot control her powers when she is angry, neither can M-Plate. The resulting explosion of pyrotechnics frees Generation X, and M-Plate frees with Penance, though it is unclear if she was taken against her will. They re-emerge before Monet and Bishop immediately tries to kill M-Plate to spare the future from his taint. Penance confronts Monet, torn between killing her and helping her. Monet does not resist, hoping her death will atone for her brother's sins. And upon hearing this, Penance attacks M-Plate, which shocks him into retreat. However, he reveals that he has converted Sync into his minion and transported him to his hometown of St. Louis, to feed on his own family and friends. The team manages to stop Sync, though it is Monet who ultimately defeats him by daring him to truly sync with her. Whatever Sync finds inside her horrifies him and shocks M-Plate's influence out of him, leaving only more questions in the team's minds about what Monet may be hiding. This is all really, really cool stuff. While the rest of the Marvel Universe was occupied with Onslaught, Emma, sensing the disturbance, tried to protect Generation X by taking over their minds, gently but firmly, forcing them to accompany her to her home. While this did indeed protect them from Onslaught, it also left them basically defenseless against Toad, who Emma had allowed to live in her home. To correct this oversight, Nicole projected herself into Emma's mind for the first time, which Emma mistook her for a younger Monet, explaining the situation so that Emma would release the team and talk sense into Toad. Following this adventure, Generation X comes to the attention of Bastion of Operation Zero Tolerance. Now Bastion is this kind of like, it looks like a man, but it's actually a sentinel. I don't know if it's part man, part sentinel, or it's just really good camouflage. But he was supposed to be like the ultimate kind of sentinel. But anyways. Okay. Yeah, for the time being, Bastion takes special notice of Chamber, Banshee, and M-Plate, and their disastrous first meeting at the airport. Bastion eventually figures out Chamber's identity, and upon learning that Chamber's plane ticket was purchased by Frost Enterprises, gradually comes closer to exposing Gen X's, and more importantly, the X-Men's secrets. Monet enters one of her trances during a xenobiology midterm given by visiting Professor Beast. Penance ventures into the classroom via the window and attempts to sit for the test, and though she only manages to shred her test paper, Emma considers it a plus because she is at least trying to fit in. I mean, that's optimistic, right? Yeah, so anyway, Beast is fascinated when Monet re-emerges from the trance, having built a detailed origami structure out of her test paper. Beast reveals to Sean and Emma that Monet's trances likely have nothing to do with her mutant power as they first thought. Instead, he recognizes the signs and says Monet is autistic. Though Sean and Emma discuss treatment options and try to talk Monet into seeing a doctor, she abruptly destroys the school's cars on the scheduled date and refuses to go. Wow. So Sean chases her into the sky, where she tearfully describes having been poked and prodded by numerous doctors as a child, and begs him not to make her go through that again. Sean agrees, though Emma insists that Monet simply manipulated him to avoid the problem yet again. M-Plate appears while Monet, Husk, Jubilee, and Emma spend the Christmas holidays at the St. Croix home in Monaco. He only reveals himself to Monet, and his presence seemed to trigger in her the ability to view mutagenic auras, just as he does. M-Plate invites Monet to join him, and failing that, asks her to find someone to take his place in the dimension where he is constantly torn apart. Monet cannot imagine condemning anyone else to such a fate, and M-Plate vanishes into a sea of white hands that tear at his flesh. This is a twisted family. Generation X is then attacked by the team of Sean's cousin Black Tom Cassidy and Mondo, who undergoes a fearsome transformation in appearance and attitude, having been shown waiting for Tom's signal over the course of several issues to reveal his true nature. Black Tom's plant manipulation completely transforms the school grounds, and he forces Sean and Emma to fight each other to the death in front of the captured team, while Mondo captures Jubilee, who manages to evade them. Bastion finds Jubilee first and protects her by killing Mondo, but then takes Jubilee hostage and transports her to his desert base in New Mexico. Emma uses her powers to force Sean to unleash his sonic scream, supposedly killing her in the process. Sean is then rescued by Penance, who slices Tom in half with a single blow. Oh wow. Okay. Let's see here. She's got a pretty good history. We got a bit more to go. Alright. Let's see here. Having discovered that the captured team is actually merely empty husks, Sean sets out to find Generation X. Unknown to him, they have been transported to a tiny island in the ocean. Monet and Chamber try to protect their teammates, but the sheer hopelessness of the situation causes Monet to panic, and she attempts to fly away and get help. But she soon exhausts herself and falls into the ocean. St then pulls her back on the island, but Monet has lost all hope. Emma recovers and searches Sean's mind, helping her realize where the team is. Oddly enough, the team suddenly finds itself on a rusty ship at sea, where their dreams seem to have been realized. Chamber's body is restored, and he is dating Husk. St and Jubilee are in love and run a camp for kids, and M-Plate is restored to the kind brother that Monet once knew. Skin, however, is tied to a pole because he will not make a request of Glorian, the dream shaper who rescued the team. He eventually convinces Glorian to send the team home, though Glorian assumes this means Skin's home of Los Angeles and sends the team there. Sean realizes that Black Tom planned to send the team to the sentient island Krakoa. Bum bum bum. Alright, so when Monet returned, she and Everett continued to grow close, and Everett is St. They began to grow close and intensify their relationship. However, Monet was the most devastated when St sacrificed his own life to stop an exploding bomb that had been placed in the academy by Emma Frost's sister, Adrienne. After the tragic incident, the team rapidly began to fall apart, even as Monet began to open up and act more vulnerable around her teammates. Monet also began to observe Emma acting strangely villainous. After they found out Emma had killed her sister in retribution for Everett's death, the entire team questioned Emma's leadership abilities, particularly when combined with Banshee's relapse into alcoholism following the death of his lover, Maura McTaggart. The school was promptly closed when the students decided their instructors were no longer fit to teach them. So after Generation X disbanded, Monet temporarily joined Banshee's militant X-Corps with Husk and Jubilee to keep an eye on the devastated Irish mutant. However, the X-Corps were soon destroyed by Mystique, leaving M to join the X-Corporation's European branch located in Paris, where she assisted Cannonball, Multiple Man, and Siren in defeating Weapon XII, so Weapon 12. Weapon X is actually Weapon 10. It just sounds so much better to say Weapon X. Weapon XII does not sound good. Weapon 12 doesn't sound much better, but it is somewhat of an improvement, I guess. Anyways, Monet helped the X-Men battle Black Tom Cassidy and the Juggernaut before returning to her duties at the X-Corporation in Paris. Alright, following the events of House of M and the shutdown of X-Corporation, Monet, who has also appeared on the cover of Vanity Fair, has opted to join X Factor Investigations, a private detective agency run by Multiple Man. Monet completed her first mission on the team by telepathically tricking the famous actor Jack Vaughn to confess to the murder of Gloria Santiago's sister. Afterwards, Monet broke down crying in Jamie Madrox, who is Multiple Man, in his arms, but quickly threatened to break him in half if he ever revealed her moment of weakness. A comment made to Richter seems to imply that she no longer wishes to go by the name M. However, in a therapy session with Doc Samson, Monet stated that she hides behind the M persona so that others will not see how vulnerable she is and how vulnerable she can become after the long time she was held captive by her brother. Okay, so I know this sounds weird, and it's because some of the information I've omitted, because a lot of it just didn't seem like it was going anywhere. Where she said where she was held captive by her brother, Monet actually got her identity back at some point, but it was one of those kind of like blink and you miss it kind of events. It's just so weird. And I'm gonna address that too. But yeah, so she's back to her normal self. Like, she's not Penance. She's actually the Monet persona that the twins had kind of made up or imitated. Alright, so Monet also had a brief romantic fling with Multiple Man. The tryst did not end well because Multiple Man was unsure whether he or his duplicate had relations with her, while he or his duplicate slept with Siren at the same time. Wow. Yeah, I'm just gonna let that be. While the two women initially refused to speak to each other, they eventually took a shopping trip to patch things up after being threatened by Layla Miller. During the pair's trip, the two encountered a small anti-mutant mob marching on Paris's own mutant town and were arrested by the gendarmes for breaking the riot up. However, in a French prison, the mob leader bragged to Siren and Monet that he and his mob had succeeded in burning down the building, which is why they had been arrested. In response, I can't say, Monet really hurt the mob leader before she and Siren broke out of the prison to check on the ex-mutants. While the two arrived, they found an abandoned girl whom Monet decided to take back to the States. Monet has had a small role during the Messiah complex as well. She's seen with the rest of the X-teams and has a talk with Warpath about his feelings concerning his late friend Caliban and being a member of X-Force. Later, he aids Emma and the Stepford Cuckoos in locating the baby, and she is present at the final battle on Muir Island. Monet is also later seen living in the sovereign nation of Krakoa, constructed by X as the new mutant homeland for him and his people. She was amongst a host of heavy hitter X-Men selected to take the fight to the Orcus group before they could bring the abominable Mother Mold online. Now, Mother Mold was like the Sentinel making Sentinel, basically. Whilst on their way to the Orcus Forge from their lunar base, the team was met with heavy resistance by their opposing force. Now, the thing with Mother Mold, I believe it's also been called Master Mold. I think that there's the one and the same, but if I remember correctly, they were basically this giant sentinel that could make the normal sentinels, but they could also learn from things and make modifications to each new iteration of sentinels. So it's kind of insane. Alright, but anyways, after their ship was believed to be been dispatched by the Forge's armed forces, Husk and Archangel were found dead on arrival. The rest of the team went to work while Monet stayed behind with Jean and set up a telepathic relay for everyone to keep in contact with one another. The vessel they were on was eventually boarded, and Monet shoved Jean out an escape pod while fighting to the death with Orcus's soldiers in her penance form. So maybe she can switch back and forth? It's weird. At a later date, thanks to the Five, who merged their collective mutant powers together to resurrect Monet as well as Archangel, Jean, Scott, Paige, Logan, Raven, and Kurt, with the help from a Cerebro-empowered X, Monet was more than happy to be back amongst the living, but was hesitant to receive a hug from Storm. The Six Years were well received by their fellow mutants back home, though, hailed as saviors of the highest caliber after giving their lives for preserving their newfound way of life. Now, Claudette and Nicole St. Croix have also reappeared as members of the new mutant nation of Krakoa, and they were shown at the Academos habitat, both turned into penance, and they were being reprehended by their sister Monet. So, wow, what an insane history. It's so many twists and turns in it. It's so many twists and turns. And I want you to know, I omitted a lot because there were a lot of things. And you could see it, like, starting with the kind of like the Messiah complex. Like, they just stopped. They just stopped using her. And, you know, it just doesn't make sense, right? Like after, once the Messiah complex happened, her whole history just kind of like finished. Like everything she was in, it just didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. So I didn't put it in here. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, you know, you can catch me on Twitter, Instagram under superdeepdive. You can catch me on TikTok under Superhero Deep Dive. You can catch me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. Let me know, did I miss anything important? Help me understand. If you get the Monet Penance twins whole dynamic, let me know what you think of it. Or if you can explain it, please do, because it's hard to wrap my head around. But let me get into her powers. Alright, so Monet is superhuman in essentially all aspects, possessing superhuman strength, capable of lifting automobiles, boulders, and other massive objects. She also possesses superhuman physical attributes like invulnerability, agility, dexterity, speed, reflexes, and balance. X-Man Bishop noted that Monet possesses a superior rating in all human physical categories. She's virtually invulnerable, being able to withstand common firearms at long range and direct blows from Hulk. Similar to Hulk's healing powers, Monet can heal and recover from wounds faster and is more resilient to toxins, disease, and even aging. Among Monet's other abilities are telescopic vision, night vision, and acute hearing abilities. Monet also has an eidetic memory and intuitive skills, proving this trait by rerouting one of Arcade's robots to track the signal back to the source without knowing the exact specifications of the robot. She is also able to psionically levitate and move herself in the air by force of will, allowing her to fly at supersonic speeds approaching Mach 3. She has demonstrated minor telekinetic abilities in the past, deflecting bullets or projecting thought waves as concussive force. Monet is a telepath with the ability to read minds, project her thoughts into the minds of others, and defensively mask her mind against telepathic intrusion. She has limited offensive capabilities such as mind control and the ability to manipulate the memory of others, and the range of her telepathy is limited within a few feet of herself. Monet also has the ability to view mutant auras. Now Monet and her siblings are able to merge into different combinations with different powers, although merging seems easiest for the twins Nicole and Claudette. And Monet is also a formidable hand-to-hand fighter and is of genius level intellect. So really, they made her like the mutant version of Superman. I mean, let's just put that out there. But fun facts. Monet actually holds citizenship in Algeria, Bosnia, and France. Monet's mother is the Monegasque ambassador to France, making it very likely that Monet is a Monacan citizen. Okay, so I guess Monegasque is from Monaco? Does that sound right? I mean, it makes sense to me, right? The character Penance appears in the television film Generation X, portrayed by Amaryllis. This version displays no psionic powers. In X2, X-Men United, Penance's name appears on a file while Mystique is going through the files on William Stryker's computer. So that's really it. Like, she doesn't have a big outside of comic books following, I guess, or presence. But I will say, it's a super cheesy movie, but Generation X, it was done on Fox in the 90s. It's great. It's a fun movie. It really doesn't make, I mean, it's so bad. It's one of those awesomely bad movies. Like, it's so bad it's good. It's very amusing. Check it out. I recommend. I'm pretty sure you can find it on the Tube of Views. Find it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure it's there. But let me get into my final thoughts on this. Now, when Monet first came out, I was a big fan. She was super powerful, but she had this fatal flaw of having like a very dry, almost non-existent personality. You know, she was smug, she seemed spoiled, but it also could be because of the autistic twin that was in it, where she would space out, so the personality kind of took a hit. But aside from that, this character was exactly as they were designed to be. perfect. But what should be done with her? When I wrote this, I glanced over all the information that I was collecting. So I didn't really know at the time. Like, I didn't have inspiration. I don't have an answer because most of the drama she really had was with her siblings. But that can only go so far if that's all you got to go with. So what would you do? Like, how would you treat the character that's actually made to be perfection? Doing this, what I would do is I think her family, the St. Croix family, needs to have some kind of series, some kind of story, something standalone that we can delve into their history. Because how is it? And I mean, I guess we can see it with the Guthrie family too, with Cannonball and Husk and their brothers and sisters. It seems like two normal parents are having a whole family of mutants. But what triggered that? What triggered it? For the Guthries, we can imagine it was something with the coal mines and stuff, but what would trigger a French ambassadors, all their kids being mutants, and their powers being so different? Because we see it with the Summers as well. Alex, which is Havoc. We have Cyclops. We have Vulcan. They were all Summers brothers. They all had similar powers, though. They all kind of redirected energy. So this one's kind of a mystery. Because we have seen where Colossus and his sister, they have stuff. So yeah, it's just weird. And it's worth, I guess, writing a story about and getting into it. Why is their family so crazy? But have I missed anything like really important? I left a lot of stuff out, like I said, because it didn't seem to be really big for her character, but I could be wrong. It's not the first time. Yeah, just ask my wife. She'll tell you every day. But let me know what kind of treatment you would give Monet. Remember, a hero is only as good as their trials, so something would definitely need to be done. And it seems like her best stories were with her brother. But let me know. Like I said, you can catch me online. You can email me directly at b4itall, so b4itall@yahoo.com. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram under Super Deep Dive. You can catch me on TikTok under Superhero Deep Dive. You can catch me on YouTube under Superhero Deep Dive. With TikTok and YouTube, please like, subscribe, share. I post memes daily. I post videos on YouTube throughout the week. It's a lot of fun. I'd love to have you on the community. I'd love to actually have conversations with you guys. It's great. Let's do it. But guys, I think for now, I'm going to head out. I've got stuff to do. I hope you all have stuff to do. I hope you're all blessed. I hope you're all happy. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all smart. And if you're not smart, don't get caught. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.